welcome to my channel. My name is Devin. This is a channel where I'm going to talk about books that I really like and sometimes books that I really didn't like that much. Today, we have A Touch of Darkness by Scarlett St. Clair. It's a great nom de plume. This is a Hades and Persephone retelling. Love me a bit of mythology. I'm going to say this one did not exactly deliver what I was hoping. I had thoughts. Are you in the mood for a riff on a classic, but one that pretty much strips all of the richness and the intrigue from the classic itself, leaving you with not much more than the very bare bones? Great. Got the book for you. If you are in the mood for a riff on a classic that improves upon the classic, then join me in drinking a Black Manhattan. At the end of the video, I will have a little section on how I made this drink. Persephone is the goddess of spring by title only. The truth is, Berto. I'm trying to do something over here. Since she was a little girl, flowers have shriveled at her touch. After moving to New Athens, she hopes to lead an unassuming life disguised as a mortal journalist. Hades, god of the dead, has built a gambling empire in the mortal world, and his favorite bets are rumored to be impossible. After a chance encounter with Hades, Persephone finds herself in a contract with the god of the dead, and the terms are impossible. We just said impossible. Persephone must create life in the underworld or lose her freedom forever. Though that is a lie. The bet does more than expose Persephone's failure as a goddess. However, as she struggles to sow the seeds of her freedom, love for the god of the dead grows, and it's forbidden. I'm not necessarily super up to date with my Greek mythology. One of the big problems I had right off the bat is the way that Hades and Persephone meet and the way that Persephone finds herself in a bet with Hades. This is an urban fantasy. I love a good urban fantasy when it's good. An urban fantasy series that I freaking love is the Kate Daniels series by Elena Andrews, Goat. Goats, I guess, plural, since it's a husband and wife duo who do that. That is really good urban fantasy because there's so much lore and rules and exposition that they really masterfully weave into the way that they tell that story about our main character, our titular character, Kate Daniels. But there's very specific rules for the fantasy elements of that world, and it's really clear, and it's told to you, and it's reinforced, and it all makes sense, and it all builds on each other, and that creates stakes. Not quite the same case with this book. I don't know that I was feeling stakes. I would say that this book was vegetarian. There were no stakes that I could really see. The Greek pantheon exists in this urban fantasy world that's more modern, but she already is the goddess of spring, but she's also only 20 years old, and we're that's never really explained. The whole point of the Hades and Persephone original myth is that it kind of explains spring. This character, who, yes, according to the lore, should kind of be this maiden character at the start, but she's also already a goddess. Says here, right here, Persephone, the goddess of spring. She could have been a full-on adult woman goddess. Instead, she is in a twist that none of y'all saw coming. Could not possibly ever guess what I'm about to say. This female main character is a 20-year-old college senior about to graduate with 6 months left, and she is a virgin who's never even touched herself. Oh, the shock, right? How shocking that we have a character like that. It never happens. Never. Quickly, I realized that this is basically just 50 Shades of Grey draped in a little bit of light Greek mythology, and I did not like that. That was not the interesting new take that I was hoping for. Persephone always wondered how Hades felt about that, or if he cared. He was more than just the king of the underworld, after all. Being the wealthiest of all the gods, he earned the title of Rich One, capital R, capital O. That is also canon. I thought that was just really stupid and made up. Nope, that is canon. and had invested his money into some of the most popular clubs in New Greece. Is New Greece a city, a country, a continent? Not totally sure. And these weren't just any clubs. These were elite gambling dens. It was said Hades liked a good bet and rarely accepted a wager other than the human soul. So this is page 2. Already then we know that our girl Persephone, she is thinking about Hades. She's aware of Hades. She's thinking about him. She's considering how he lives his life, I guess. Hades is not like a total mystery to her. We're also getting the introduction of the fact that what Hades does in this world is that he's not just the god of the dead, lord of the underworld. He is also like nightclub owner, entrepreneur, very bedazzled like. Sadly, this Hades was pretty quickly, I realized, not going to be the Hades that I was hoping for, which was a Hades similar to the seminal animated film Hercules, which was one of my favorite films of all time when I was a kid. Fucking love that movie. Loved Hades. No zingers, no like schmoozy type of vibe. No, that's not this Hades. This Hades is basically a moody club owner who is draped on by a female acquaintance that he doesn't want, and everybody thinks he's a bad guy, but he's secretly a good guy. And oh my god, Resand, is that you? Where did you come from? This feels very much like a big old mashup pot of a bit of, not a good bit of 50 Shades of Grey, the Anna, Christian, Kavanaugh, Catherine, also a bit of the Resand tortured bad boy who gets a redemption arc. But the redemption arc starts like right away. We don't even get him being a bad boy, so it's not even that fun. It's just like, okay, he ends up being kind of boring and dull. Persephone, she is living a double life. Demeter is like a protective mother who loves her, or who is overprotective of her daughter. Not a really interesting character at all, because she just wants to control her daughter and whatever. So she is a college student in her last year of university, and she is also about to start an internship at the New Athens News. She's eager to prove herself, baby. She's gonna be a professional woman, and she's not gonna take no shit, except for she does take all the shit in the world. She has a roommate / BFF, another student called Lexa. You know, the type of cliche best friend character who is like a lot more actual personality and is at times described as like really captivating or something. Again, Catherine Kavanaugh, paging Catherine Kavanaugh. But for some reason, the MMC has absolutely no interest in her. He only has eyes for our girl. Alexa is telling Persephone that they gotta go out and celebrate. Not with coffee, alcohol, shots. You plus me tonight. Persephone's like, I couldn't possibly. Alcohol, what's that? Alexa says to her, I have gotten us on the list for Nevernight, the most exclusive club in all of New Greece that's owned by, you guessed it, Hades. And it's really hard to get into, but for some reason, a random college senior has gotten them on the list that very night. Persephone had to convince her mother Demeter to let her go to college and let her leave her glass prison, because her mother was keeping her in like a hothouse greenhouse type of situation, like a precious flower, and she didn't want her to go anywhere. That's partially because, I guess, again, Persephone seems to have no powers / also have just like not the right powers, because she's a goddess of spring, but she wilts flowers. But she's able to get her mom to let her go to full-on college for the last 4 years. She definitely shouldn't go to Nevernight owned by Hades, because her mother said don't go anywhere near Hades. As much as Persephone's like, no, I couldn't possibly, she goes. Anna and Catherine, I mean Persephone and Lexa, and they go up to the bar and they order Manhattans. The one fucking drink that you never want to order at a goddamn nightclub is a Manhattan. Jaws. Some dude rushes up to pay for their drinks, and who is it but Adonis? This book had a really bad case of cardboard characters. Every single character felt pretty much exactly the same. She's just sitting on the corner of this booth, and everybody's chit-chatting around, and she just kind of looks around, and of course, locks eyes on a guy up on the second floor, kind of, I guess, mezzanine, who is draped in shadow. And let me give you one guess who the fuck that could be. He was big, well over 6.5 feet tall. 6.5 feet tall is fucking tall. We are entering professional basketball player territory. Like, that is tall as shit. And dressed in darkness from his inky hair to his black suit. Her throat went dry, and she was suddenly uncomfortable. She fidgeted and crossed her legs, instantly regretting the move because the man's gaze fell there, sliding back up her frame, snagging on her curves. The fire pulled low in her stomach, reminding her of how empty she felt, how desperately she needed to be filled up. We are on page 18. She sees this man. She's attracted to him. He's on this kind of balcony, interior balcony, and overlooking the club, and she's down with the peasants. And a woman comes up and hugs him from behind. So begins one of the most tired and annoying dynamics in this fucking book, but also in books like this everywhere, which is the introduction of sexy ass personal assistant Mint, M-I-N-T-H-E. I'm going to say Mint. The ensuing dynamic between Hades, Persephone, and Mint, which made me want to throw this book out the fucking window. Handsome Adonis kind of nudges her and he's like, oh, you looking for Hades? Usually upstairs in a quiet lounge. That's where he likes to negotiate his deals and his terms and play his games. Mortals come here to this club, Nevernight. They come here so that they can make deals with Hades in his gambling den, which is upstairs and it's private, and you have to have a password to get there. So she is told that explicitly. She is told that right then. She sees him up there. She sees that mystery man giant. And then she's told all of that information right away. And then Lexa grabs her and she's like, come on, let's go to the bathroom. Then she looked at Persephone seriously and said, it's okay to be vulnerable, you know? This is starting to get into ABC Family after school special territory. What do you mean? Persephone's question was snappier than she intended. Lexa shrugged. Never mind. These are supposed to be best friends who have known each other for like 4 years. And also, what do you mean? She said it. It's okay to be vulnerable, you know? Like, that's pretty straightforward. They go into different stalls. Somehow in the process of that, they get completely like discombobulated and lost from each other. She gets out, doesn't see her girly Lexa anywhere. So she's just like, I'll wander away. And she sees the staircase leading up to the second floor gambling den, and there's a woman there who's like staring at her, and she's like, looking for somebody. Yeah, my friend. And this woman's like, oh, she went upstairs. Girl, of course your friend did not just randomly go upstairs to the private gambling den. Our girl Persephone, even though she's a goddess, is like, yep, that makes total sense, stranger. I want to go up there, but I don't possibly know the password. And this woman is like, oh, I know the password. It's pathos, and that's tragedy. And this book is a goddamn tragedy. So she goes up there. She knows the password. She gets in. There's another random creature from Greek mythology sprinkled in. Not important. It is a private gambling den. She goes, wanders up to one of the tables, doesn't look for her friend. A man from behind her is like, do you know how to play? It's poker. It's the guy from the goddamn balcony, Mr. 6'6", which would be a little bit scary. She doesn't know how to play. She's like, no, why don't you teach me? And let me please just tell you, listener, reader, if you go to an illicit gambling den where they're really betting stuff, whether or not it's something as valuable as your human soul, do not just go up to a stranger and be like, let's play, but you teach me. Hades can like see mortal vices, and the way that he kind of sets up his deals that he's doing is that he finds an alcoholic and he bets them that they can't go however long without drinking, or he finds a sex addict and bets them that they can't be chased. And that is a dick move. That is weird and dickish. All of the people in the world, all of the mortals, their souls will go to the underworld regardless of whether or not they bet Hades or not. Their souls will go there no matter what. That's where souls go. So why do the mortals play these games? Get that Hades, I guess, maybe could like get their souls faster, and so he finds an alcoholic, and he's like, hey, I bet you can't go a week without a drink, which is fucked. And then they say, hey, okay, I take that bet for reasons, and then they lose that bet, and then Hades is like, okay, well, I'm snatching your soul, and their mortal body is just like dead. Is that really how it goes? It's just such a bizarre setup with the bet and the gambling and the nightclub. Like, I don't get it exactly until when somebody comes up and tries to like negotiate something specific and he shoots it down, but we'll get into that later. But that was the only kind of instance that it made sense, but it was also an instance of something that never is able to happen because he doesn't allow it. So with the betting and the gambling and everything is very different from the Hades from mythology as I understand it, because that Hades is like pragmatic and fair above all else, but he's not like this weird predatory gambling den master thug who gets you into situations that you don't want. So right away, the motivation for the main characters was lacking. It was really, really underdeveloped, very underbaked. This guy comes up, the tall guy from the balcony. He's like, you want to play? And she's like, I don't know how, but I'll definitely go into this place where we know that Hades lurks around trying to make bets for people's souls and just say yes to playing poker when I don't fucking know how it goes. So they sit down, they're dealt the cards, and immediately he wins. And they kind of do this little back and forth where he's like trying to get information from her. He smirked, and she could feel it deep in her gut. Darling, I win either way. Darling, Resand, is that you again? So she realizes it's Hades. She's been playing a game that she doesn't know how to play and losing badly to Hades. And he has given her a mark because they have engaged in some kind of bet. The details of which were not told to her then, and that she didn't really even sort of, I guess she consented to it sort of, but sort of not. But of course, she knew all of that. She just told all of this information right before she walked up there, and she still walked up there and fucking did it, played the game, and lost in the bet to him. And now he's going to set the terms because she knows that that's how he operates, because somebody conveniently told her right as soon as she walked into the goddamn club. What? Like, girl, why would you do that? Why would you do that? But she does. She does. This girl. She's got this mark on her wrist. She realizes she's got to go back to Nevernight, even though she's never going to go back there ever in her life. She's wake up and go to her internship, of course, at New Athens News, where she realizes that Adonis, the random guy that she met in the giant nightclub last night, also works there. So she goes there. She has to sit down with Dimitri. He's like, tell me something about yourself. Oh, I'm just a normal girl, Persephone. Don't look at me too long. And also, I like my friends and I like baking sugar cookies. And give her a little edge. Give her something, please. I beg of you. I beg of you. Why? Why can't they be women? Yeah, like they just seem like children. And okay, here's the thing. If I'm going to be kind and generous, I will say that it's because some of these stories and some of the readers of these stories, it's grown out of young adult fiction, and young adult fiction kind of is from 15 to 18 to maintain kind of the core beats of these stories as we get into, you know, these grown up young adult stories that kind of straddle between pure adult and young adult. They would naturally start when they're 18, and to preserve some of the, I don't know, whatever part of it, the innocence that makes it good, the characters are going to be 18-year-old virgins who like their best friends and going into the garden and painting sugar cookies. It was just like, I hate it. It's just so not interesting to read about an 18-year-old. No disrespect to 18-year-old virgins, but it's just like, it's not necessarily what I want to read about, especially in a spicy novel. There's this moment here that was weirdly prophetic. Triad was a group of impious mortals who actively organized against the gods, supporting fairness, free will, and freedom. Zeus had declared them as terrorist organization, as not a just terrorist organization, and threatened death to any caught with their propaganda. Oh yeah, Dimitri raised his brows, rubbing the back of his neck. Completely ludicrous, of course, but that didn't keep people from believing it. Probably the worst thing to come from it was that as a result of Zeus' condemnation, the faithful organized into cults and started a manhunt of their own, killing several who were openly impious, uncaring if they were associated with Triad or not. It was a horrific time, and it had taken Zeus longer than necessary to come out against the cults. New Athens News said so themselves. So, operating as I am as a person in America in 2025, that was weirdly prophetic. Gosh, okay. Hi, I'm back. New day, same book. All right, so we have to keep going because I took a look at some of the other footage and I got lost in the sauce here. Persephone, she had her first kind of day at her new internship at New Athens News. Bop, bop, bop. She weirdly is working with Adonis there, even though she just met him. And she decided that she's got to go back to the Nevernight because she's got this tattoo from Hades. Do you want to play a game? Yes, she did. We also get the official introduction of Minth, the character who the female subordinate to Hades, who is ultra hot, super sexy, really wants him, is down bad for Hades. He has no real serious interest with her. He is going to tell Persephone that, and regardless, she's going to be freaked out and hate Minth, and it's going to be a bunch of girl on girl hate. Fabulous. It's exactly what I want. Hades, Persephone, she's got her terms. 6 months, create life. You would think, right? You would think that if that's the terms, her punishment or her bargaining terms, 6 months down in the underworld, create life, that she would be snapped down in the underworld, trapped there until she could leave. Nope. As soon as she has this conversation with Hades, she's good to just come and go at her leisure. She can kind of work on it whenever. He's going to give her his favor so that she can get down there. She's kind of blessed. She goes back home. She talks to her BFF / new stranger to her, Lexa, who obviously is like, where were you? And Persephone's like, come to see Hades. And Alexa's like, looks like somebody has a big fat crush. Ugh, save me now. And Persephone is like, no. I mean, he is so hot that I self-combust the moment that we're in the same room together, but I don't have a crush on him. That would be crazy. Because my mom doesn't want me to have a crush on him. And I care about what my mom says for reasons. I hate my mom. Persephone as a character is very confusing. Her motivation is confusing because it's like, you don't like your mother. You don't like the world that you were given by your mother, the terms that she sets, and yet you pretty much follow them exclusively. And then when a god comes along who is more powerful and kind of offers you the strength through your association to maybe be able to build out and go against your mother, you are very steadfast in wanting to follow her rules that you should stay away for reasons that are not clear to you or to us as the audience. And then there's also this element of her being like this ultra blushing every single second. She can't help but blush. But also she threatens other side characters with death kind of casually. Like her mom sends these nymphs to watch her, to spy nymphs. And she catches one and she threatens to murder her. And it's like, wait, sorry, are you like a cute little, 20-year-old virgin who paints sugar cookies in her free time because it relaxes her? Or are you capable of murder? Because you can be a character that kind of holds those dualities, but a lot more work needs to be done to establish that character. Because as it is, that kind of reveal of her threatening her mom's nymphs with murder kind of came out of nowhere. A lot of different elements of the story that are kind of consistent are introduced in this run-up. There is the complications between Persephone and her mom. There is the fractured or tense kind of jealousy relationship, antagonistic relationship between Persephone and Minth, the bitchy hot girl who is Hades' subordinate, who obviously loves him, that he's kind of not even interested in, and he tells her that from the very beginning, but for some reason she just can't possibly believe it. There is the dynamic of Persephone, Adonis, and Hades, where Adonis is kind of like this weird random character who's just around, forced right into her life in a way that's so unbelievable, and who Hades then doesn't like for reasons that are not made clear. which is also another thing that I hate. I hate when authors have a character tell us that another character is bad, but we haven't seen anything then. So we're just like, okay, so we'll just wait for that other shoe to drop. And then there's this whole element of, which I guess is a subplot in this book, Persephone being an intern at a newspaper and then almost immediately getting to work on an expose with Hades, the god who is, the god of the underworld, but also a very much active member of the mortal world because he hangs out in his nightclub all the time, accepting bargains and deals from mortals. Hades is apparently really hard for the staff at the newspaper to get access to, and they get really excited that she seems to have access to it, and she kind of starts on this journey of potentially writing an expose around him. She's rightfully critical of Hades' practices with how he sets up mortals to fail with these bargains. I still don't understand why the mortals would ever take part. And what I didn't love is that she goes in there and she just starts like demanding answers from him in a way that was really, really weird and, again, confusing for this character. She heads back to Nevernight with Adonis in tow to basically interview Hades. He took a languid sip of his liquor. Do you want to guess what Hades drinks? It's whiskey. Could have been something cool like Slivovitz, but no, it's whiskey. He took a languid sip of his liquor. I remember every soul and every bargain. His eyes narrowed and he studied her a moment. The point, Persephone, get to the point. You've had no trouble of it in the past. Why now? They've known each other for literally 24 hours. She felt Adonis look at her, and she glared at Hades, her face flushed with anger. There she goes again. He made it sound like they'd known each other far longer than 2 days. 48 hours. I'm sorry, excuse me. You agree to offer mortals whatever they desire if they gamble with you and win. So I guess it's whatever they desire, which is pretty, so it's just like a roundabout way of saying that his bets are just, he will give them whatever they desire, but wait. Not all mortals and not all desires, he said. Oh, forgive me. You are selective in the lives you destroy. His face hardened. I do not destroy lives. It is such a fucked up situation that he preys on addicts. And then again, I don't really know exactly what he's offering the addicts except for maybe like a really dope house? A brand new car? You get a new car. You only make the terms of your contract known after you've won. That's deception. That is not the way that these things go. The terms are clear. The details are mine to determine. I feel as though details are part of the terms. It is not deception, as you call it. It is a gamble. Even when you're gambling, I'm pretty sure you're very aware of what it is you're potentially putting up to lose and very aware of what it is you could win. But hey, I'm famously not much for gambling. I have really bad luck like that, so I almost never go to casinos. You challenge their vice. You lay their darkest secrets bare. I challenge what is destroying their life. It is their choice to conquer or succumb. Dude, this is so stupid. You are a god. You should know more than anybody that some things like this, addictions and things like this, isn't just a choice that they've made to destroy their life. You've probably seen it happen over and over and over and over again through the millennia. She stared at him. He spoke in such a matter-of-fact tone as if he'd had this conversation thousands of times. And how to do you know their vice? It was the answer she had been waiting for, and at the question, a wicked smile crossed Hades' face. It transformed him and hinted at the god beneath the glamour. I see to the soul, he said. What burdens it, what corrupts it, what destroys it, and challenge it. But what do you see when you look at me? That's in her head. That's not something that she says out loud. This is another important aspect that's kind of underbaked and not quite fully laid out. He sees to the soul, but we're not totally sure if he can see kind of her soul, but it's not really clear. And I don't remember. I don't know if that's just historically part of Hades, but I mean, that just all goes to set up a really annoying element to this story and the dynamic between them, which is that Hades, even though he is ostensibly a god that you expect the other gods to be like he's been around for a long time, he's been doing this, it's not his first time at the radio, even still, he is apparently unable to understand what's wrong with this system of bets that he set up, and it takes Persephone to be the one to point it out to him, even though it's pretty clear what is wrong with this system, which is that it doesn't make fucking sense, and you're setting these people up for failure, and you are preying on addicts to defeat their addiction, which is pretty much impossible because it's not just something they chose to do, it's an addiction. Very cool. Very cool. Again, she's just free to leave whenever. Come and go as ye please. She still hasn't gone to the underworld, not once. But the next day, she's going to go back because she's got to go to the underworld. Hades is going to give her a tour, show her kind of like where she can work. You know, when you get hired at a new place and they take you around and maybe you're just a temp. And so they're like, that's Wilson's office over there. That's Sharon. She brings in cupcakes like every 2 weeks. And then that weird little cubicle that's sad and everything is gray, that's going to be where you sit up. She goes back to Nevernight because apparently that's how you're going to access the underworld. Very convenient, I guess, for Hades. She gets in there and she finds Hades and he's like, hey, cool, go up to my office. I've got a little bit of business to do, but I'll be right with you and then I'll take you to the underworld. And she's like, huff. And she goes in there and Butler comes and serves her wine and she's like, a cab, please. So many times. She's the beverage taste of a 55-year-old man for somebody who loves vanilla lattes, cookies, and has never had sex before. She's very mature in her alcoholic beverage taste. Manhattans and Cabernet Sauvignon, you know? But she is not content to sit around and wait for him. Never. Even though he said, I'm going to be right with you, and then I will take you, I will escort you down to the underworld. So nope, instead she kind of like pokes around the office, she finds a secret, area, trap door, and then she falls down the side of a mountain and ends up at the bottom with like a broken rib. I mean, it's just so bad right away. Ends up at the bottom, but she's in the underworld. She goes and she finds the river Styx. And we all know that when you find the river Styx, mortal or apparently goddess, you should definitely just try to swim across it. It's not going to be a problem at all. You should just go right for it. Just jump in, swim right across. You're going to have no issues when you do that. And so she does. And what hazel tadpoles that guard the river, those souls that have just been swimming around through the river, they try to grab her and take hold of her, and they're dragging her down, and she's like trying to kick them, and she's not doing a good job. And then strong hands reach in and yank her out, and she's saved. Conveniently, she is saved by somebody. Is it Hades? Nope. It's Hermes, the messenger god, I believe. Yep, he's just there for no reason, apparently. And conveniently for her, he showed up exactly when she needed him and just yanked her right out of the Styx. This is going to happen a lot of convenient little things. And 10 seconds later, Hades appears and he bounces Hermes right out of there because, of course, already we are at that point where no man can talk to her without him freaking the fuck out. And she's also so pissed. Oh, the reason why she went to the underworld in advance and didn't wait for him is because he said he was otherwise engaged, and it had something to do with his female subordinate who obviously works for him, Mint, who Persephone hates for absolutely no good reason except for she's kind of a bitch to her, but of course. Why am I even surprised anymore by this whole dynamic? It's ridiculous. So Hades snaps at Hermes, and then he grabs her and they teleport to his palace in the underworld where he heals her of her injury because apparently Hades has healing powers. And again, don't know if that was in the original stories. And then he lets her sleep there and she just kind of hangs out and rests because Hades is actually a super nice sweetheart who has no problems at all. And then while they're down there, he's got to offer her his favor so that she can come and go from the underworld. Because don't forget, even though the terms of the agreement is that she has 6 months to create life in the underworld, or else she is apparently under this kind of or else when she belongs to the underworld, totally able to just come and go as she likes. Just no big deal. No requirement for a very specific amount of time, or, no problems at all. Nothing chaining her to the underworld in any real physical meaningful way, just that she's got to do it, otherwise her room moves to the underworld after. And guess what, she's gonna really hate that later. Already Hades is like such a simp for Persephone. He's already like, I bet you didn't hate that, when he's all up in her grill. And again, we are less than 100 pages in. It's already, he's made the turn. He's in love with her, or basically in lust. And so he's got to bestow upon her his favor so she can come and go more easily and not get attacked by river ghosts anymore. And how does he do that? How do you think? He has to kiss her. And so he decides to plant a big old smoocheroo on her lips naturally to bestow his favor. And guess what? You think she hates it? She doesn't. They have a smooch. They've kissed. Oh my lordy. She is committed to the task of planting a garden down the underworld. So she goes back up to the mortal world. She finds magic seeds at a magic seed seller, where they are like, Hades is a bad word. And of course, this is just more reinforcement that in this mythology, we have decided to do the most boring thing and treat Hades like Satan. We've just turned Hades into Satan, and we've turned the underworld into hell, sort of, but also kind of not really, because when she goes down there and spends time down there, it's amazing for no good reason. So she's down there again, she's planting her seeds, nothing's happening. She ends up, again, coming across a random-ass goddess, this time Hecate, the goddess of witchcraft. And Hecate's role, her function in the story is pretty much to take Persephone around and show her how dope the underworld is and how everybody down there loves Hades, and that he's totally a chill, nice guy. We actually really like being down here, even though we're dead, but it's like not a big deal. And for her to have an opportunity to engage with the souls and find out that their life is totally chill and cool, and but that there's still some ways that they could have more fun, mostly by having more barbecues. And Hecate's like, could you do that? Because you've got such a good relationship with Hades. And so we meet more and more beings, creatures, all of whom are there pretty much to reinforce the idea that Hades is totally a good dude and not bad at all. Oh my God. Night Court, are you there? There's one scene where he is basically, Hades is called to witness a mortal who is there begging for him to return his other mortal wife's soul back to her body, because she died right after they got married, and it's all very sad. And Hades is like, nah, I'm not gonna do that. And the mortal's like, why not? And Persephone is thinking like, oh, you should totally do that. It's like really sad story. So that was an opportunity for us to learn that Hades can be scary and bad sometimes, but of course all within reason and all with a pretty good backstory, which is that he can't. The fates don't give him that power. He can't just give people their lives back and install mortals back on Earth. That would be wrong and against the natural order of things, and that's not how things work. But that is apparently too difficult for Persephone to grasp. Pretty soon after that, actually almost immediately after that, we have a scene where Hades is at his nightclub / office in Nevernight, and a woman comes. She tries to bargain with him to trade her life for her daughter's, because her daughter is sick, terminally sick, and she's gonna die, so she's trying to trade her daughter's life for hers, or her life for her daughter's. And Hades says, nope, don't want your life or even your daughter's. I'm just gonna give her my favor, and she's gonna be good. She's all clear. She's cured from all of her diseases. She's gonna be fine. okay, Jesus, we get it. And Persephone conveniently is right there to witness it all, and she's like, wait, he's not so bad. It's just kind of a whole consistent little vignette of her saying no to hang out with her mom, and then her also deciding that Hades is not so bad, even though he's kind of bad, but he just did one really nice thing in front of her, so she's apparently on his side again. And throughout kind of this period of the book, we get a little bit more about like Adonis working with her at the newspaper. He's like kind of weirdly interested in what she's doing, and he asks to see her article that she's working on Hades because she's gonna write a big flashy expose. And she's like, okay, but when I'm done. And then she gets back from the underworld again, and she is woken up by Lexa, her BFF/stranger. And Lexa says, Persephone, wake up, your article's out. That Adonis had like hacked into her draft and published it under her name and everything, but just pushed it, publish it, because she was having second thoughts because she's starting to develop feelings for Hades. And there's so many times in this where they talk about the fact that Persephone is like going to be an amazing investigative journalist, or she's got so many natural abilities for the journalistic kind of endeavor that she set on. And I must say, she's not a great journalist. She's not. She immediately develops feelings and then just walks back on her intention to write this at all. So she's pissed. She's pissed at Adonis that he published her piece because it was a draft. It wasn't ready yet. And also I'm like kind of, I like him now, so I'm having second thoughts. But it's published. When she confronts Adonis, he says, hey, I just wanted to make sure it was published. You're immortal, because that's what he thinks. Everybody thinks that she's immortal. Nobody besides for Hades and her mom. And no. You're immortal and he's God. And I just thought like he would get to you and he would convince you not to publish it, which is what was happening. And so for all intents and purposes, he's like right. He's right in that assumption based on the information he knows at that point. But she's like, oh, I'm so wrong of you. I hate you. Never do that again. And I really hate that they make me side with him because, of course, his character only gets worse. And I'll let you guess what he ends up doing. Because bad male characters, they're all going to do one thing in these books. Despite that, she gets offered a series on Hades, so she's the epitome of failing upward. So she's just doing great at work. Everybody's loving it. And it instantly kind of turns her into she turns into a celebrity. So next, Persephone, Lexa, and Adonis, even though she's mad at him, go to another nightclub. This one belongs to Aphrodite, called La Rose, which sounds very much like the type of place that Lisa Vanderpump would have. So they go to another nightclub for another night out, which I guess they're young, but still, like, there's like 3 settings that we go to in this entire novel, and 2 of them are nightclubs. Adonis has invited them, and Lexa has kind of taken her, and they go and they get drinks and they're dancing, and of course she's still kind of pissed at Adonis. They are offered 2 drinks. 2 drinks are brought to them, these like kind of pink cocktails, and then she and Lexa go to dance. They drink the drinks and they've been roofied, of course. And she's getting sick and she's dancing and she's separated from Lexa. And then she runs into Adonis and she's all, fucked up because she's been roofied. And he is like, are you okay? And she's kind of like, I'm trying to find Lexa. And then he tries to sexually assault her. Or he does sexually assault her. He kisses her without consent. And it's just like, is nuance just not allowed? Are we not allowed to have things happen that are gradual or maybe not like the most? Everything in this book is like good people are going to do good and the bad people are going to do the worst stuff ever. They're going to be the most horrible people ever. Because, of course, the bad guy who's bad, who we haven't really seen be bad yet, but he said he was going to be bad. He sexually assaults you after he drugs you and tries to take advantage of you after you're on roofies. Nuance where? And second, of course, the most cliched thing to happen, she's all fucked up and Adonis is trying to assault her, and then Hades appears and he's like, back off. Don't you touch her. It's a very classic don't you touch her moment. And then he grabs her and they teleport out of there. if he calls her darling one more time, I swear to fucking God. They end up back at his palace castle down in the underworld after he takes her there, and they had the hot and heavy makeout. She in the car, but it goes south weirdly when she says that he's going to worship her, and he kind of turns off, and they're in his palace, and she wakes up and she's like, whoa, what happened? You know, when you, I mean, maybe you don't, but you know when you wake up and you have like a horrific hangover, I think when you're roofied, it is way worse than that, obviously. And you wake up and you truly feel like shit. But of course, this is the opportunity that Hades takes to confront her about the fact that she published a article about him, even though she said she was going to, and it wasn't glowing. And he's like, did you have to publish an article, you know, displaying all my faults? And I was like, bro, you do this very openly in public, and everybody knows this is what you do, and everybody knows where to go for you to do this. And I'm just confused why we're acting like this is not public knowledge. I'm confused. But they fight. This is the turn. You know, everything was going well, and now it's not going well anymore, and blah, blah, blah. And she's like, I'm going to write the articles because I'm pissed at you. She's still working. Her boss, of course, he's so amazed at how successfully she did with this Hades article, because apparently nobody else has access to Hades to be able to write this information that seems to be public knowledge. He's like, I'm gonna give you the passes to go to this fancy gala, and guess what the theme of this year's gala is? It's Hades himself. Please take me out of this torture. Deliver me from this. But she's at work, and Mint comes to visit her without Hades, and she's like, walk away, bitch, because, you know, he doesn't like you, and you don't really know what's going on. Are you in love with him or something? I mean, it's just such girl on girl hate for no reason. And listen, I'm not even somebody who says that. I actually don't want to read a novel where women are written with no complexity. I don't want to read a novel where characters are written with no complexity, but I certainly don't want to read a novel where women characters are written with no complexity. So I don't want them to be either like nonsensically buddy immediate best friends and always good at everything, because good women are women that have no faults. But I also don't want them to just be like hating on each other and scrapping for no obvious reason, and especially for that the only obvious reason to be the fact that there's a man between them. And then Mint says you're the worst wager he's ever made. She's back down in the underworld. She's working. She's talking to Hecate, you know, who is still positive about Hades and blah blah blah, still performing her function. We get our first sex scene, our first spicy scene between Hades and Persephone. So she's in the public baths down in the underworld. Apparently, this is where she is potentially going to lose her virginity, in a public bath. Friends, loved ones, don't do that. Don't have sex in a public bath for the first time. Hades' fingers continued their feather-like caress over Persephone's skin. His words weren't far behind, whispering along the path of heat he left. He kissed her shoulder. There is rage, there is passion, there is darkness. Oh, maybe a touch of darkness? He paused for a moment and let his tongue swirl against her neck. Her breath caught in her throat so hard she thought she might choke. And I want to taste it. His arm came around her waist and her back met his chest. The arc of her body fit against him perfectly. The arch of her body? His arousal pressed into her, and she wondered what it would feel like to have that flesh inside her. Oh my God, I forgot. There's so much talk of flesh in these sex scenes. Like, flesh is mentioned so many times. Hades, she breathed. Let me show you what it is to hold power in your hands, he said, and then he flopped his dick out. No, I'm just kidding. Let me coax the darkness from you. I will help you shape it. Hades, I've never... Let me be your first, he said, begged, and his voice rumbled in her chest. Oh, God. The obsession with being there first. Ugh, I'm caught. This is my hell. Breathe, he said, and she did, as much as she could anyway, until his fingers sank into her flesh. Persephone threw her head back, crying out as Hades groaned, his teeth grazing her shoulder. You're so wet. His mouth was warm against her skin. Yo, they're in a bath. She's in a bath. First off, everything's wet. And second off, that is actually a really easy way to dry yourself out down there, you know. Oh, my lordy. He helped her circle the sensitive flesh. Ugh. He'd toyed with for so long before entering her. Pleasure curled through her stomach. She rocked against him, arching her back. Hades kissed her skin ruthlessly and cupped her breast, kneading her nipples until they were hard and taut. She thought she would explode. The flesh talk is really, that's not working out for me. And then Mint walks in. Of course she does. And she doesn't immediately leave because she's a bitchy subordinate who loves him. And by the way, they did fuck before. Him and her being Mint, Hades and Mint, have boned before, because of course they have. But he's not even interested in her anymore. Good. The appearance of Myth just completely like snaps her out of the whole situation she's in. She realizes that this was a mistake, and how could she? And okay. I don't know why this is so funny to me. But Lexa at La Rose, the Aphrodite's nightclub, where they went and I think it was just Persephone who got drugged and attacked because main character behavior. Lexa, while she was there, apparently met a guy, and now she's dating him and she really likes him, and his name is Jason, but spelled Jaison. And as I was reading this, I'm also watching the show Task on HBO, which is a really good, very different vibe. So I'm not sure if everybody's going to be a crossover for that, but really, really good. I really highly recommend it. But one of those characters, I usually don't watch with subtitles, but my dog was chewing a loud toy, and so I threw him on. And one of those characters is also called Jason, but that one is spelled Jayson, and it's just like, God, can we just leave the name Jason alone? Can we just have a classic Jason and not do all of these? Jayson for some reason truly makes me laugh so hard. It's time for the gala that, of course, everybody's surprised a book like this is gonna have. And what happens? But Persephone gets a knock at the door and a box has arrived. It's just waiting for her on her doorstep. And it's a perfectly fitted gown that's perfectly perfect for her and perfect in every way, but also so reflective of him and his taste, because she's all of a sudden like, she's the goddess queen now. She's the queen goddess of the underworld. Give me a break. So she goes to the gala with Lexa, her BFF/stranger. She's got 2 tickets, so it's just the girlies. Hopefully this is going to be a time where they, for once, go out and end up sticking with each other and leaving the venue together at the same time instead of getting separated. And then Persephone's just like, well, I guess I'm just going to leave my friend behind. That's such bad etiquette. You should not, like, not even etiquette. It's just fucked behavior. You should not, guys, folks, listen to me. When you go out, don't just ditch your friends if you get separated. Find each other and stay by each other. Stick with each other. Power in numbers, y'all. Do not just do this ditching your friends shit. That's not cool. Not cool. So she and Lexa go to the Olympian ball where all the gods and all the goddesses are going to be in the same place. Something might happen that would actually force her to address the situation with her mom, where she's still lying about everything, and also her relationship now with Hades. But no, her mom's there, but it's just a total non-issue, and she completely avoids it. And then Hades gets up there because it's his themed gala. The gala is themed Hades/the Underworld this year, and so he has an opportunity to give like a presentation. So he goes up there and he's doing his PowerPoint. And what is the content of this presentation, you may ask? Oh, just that he's decided to open up an addiction treatment center called the Halcyon Project. And who does he credit in his speech? A mortal that's really impressed upon it. Like, ugh, come on, dude. Come on. Oh, it's so cheesy, cheese city. And of course, Lex is like, wait, you guys know each other that well? And she's mad for 1 second that Persephone's kind of been withholding, but that's also immediately taken care of. And Persephone's again about to leave, separate from her friend who she came with. They just cannot stick together through one solid event. And she's about to call a cab and leave by herself, and then Hades appears behind her, which is very impressive given, again, he is 6 feet 6 inches at least, hulking behind her. And he asks her to dance, and they dance together in front of everybody, so everybody's aware that they're like totally smashing. And then he teleports them back down to the underworld, baby. Because guess what? They are gonna smash. Yeah. So they're smashing. It's starting. So they get back down to the underworld, and they decide to play strip poker, because of course that was gonna show up at least once, and it's not just once. I'll tell you that much. She reached for the lapels of his jacket and helped him out of it. I want you. Be my first. Be my everything. This is page 217. We still have over 100 pages left. It was all the encouragement he needed. Hades groaned and walked around to face her. His shoulders were bunched, his hands fisted, and his jaw clenched, and she knew he was doing everything in his power to maintain control. You are beautiful, my darling. You're beautiful, little girl. Oh, my darling, come closer. It's just so weird. He kissed her again, and Persephone fumbled with his shirt until Hades took over. She's so innocent, she doesn't even know how to take a shirt off. Making quick work of the buttons. Then he reached for her, but she took a step back. For a moment, Hades' eyes darkened, and then Persephone said, "Drop your glamour." He looked at her curiously. She shrugged a shoulder. You want to fuck me with this crown? I want to fuck a god. His smirk was devilish, and he answered, as you wish. Hades' glamour evaporated like smoke curling into the air. The black of his eyes melted to an electrifying blue, and 2 black gazelle horns spiraled out of his head. He seemed bigger than ever, filling the whole space with his dark presence. Oh, I forgot. This reminds me. I don't remember if I've talked about it yet already, but for some reason, this book, in this version of Greek mythology, all of the gods just randomly have horns, like horns on their head. But then they also are constantly referenced as wearing crowns. So it's like, how does one get a metal crown? You tell me. How does a person get a metal crown over top antlers to sit and be, fit nicely on a person's humanoid head? How does that work? You having somebody like smelt the back of the crown around your head every time and then cut it back off again? It's just so, why the horns? The horns didn't need to be there. It doesn't make sense. He impaled her. Ugh. She cried out, head falling back into her pillow. She covered her mouth to keep quiet, but Hades removed her hand, holding her wrists above her. No, let me hear this, he growled. He impaled her over and over again. Guys, this is not the first time or the last time that this book is going to use impale to mean penetrate. And I don't know, maybe I was just a little bit too obsessed with medieval torture technology, but to me, impale is a very specific meaning, and it's not this. There was nothing slow or gentle about his movements, and with each thrust he spoke, and she cried in ecstasy. Oh, God. It's an oof. It's a big old oof. It is Attack of the Oof. Just oof, oof, oof. And of course, there's also a period of time where she's just realizing stuff that should be very obvious or at least apparent to her. She should know this. That being that the souls in the underworld are not writhing around in pain or torture. The underworld is not a torture zone. That it's calm and peaceful, because that's what the underworld was in Greek mythology. For the majority, there were certain exceptions, of course, for souls that were like condemned, but not everyone is condemned. A lot of them are just peaceful. And the fact that Hades doesn't have total control about whether a soul or a mortal ends up giving their soul and win, that the fates are in charge. And this was evidenced quite clearly in the movie Hercules. String, snip. There's a solid period of time that in the middle there where, you know, we have kind of crossed over into them fucking. So now, of course, we have to enter into the period of the book where every single other person is aware of what's going on and the dynamic of the relationship except for our main character, and they have to constantly reinforce to her that Hades is acting unusual. He cares about her more than he usually does, and all of the souls down in the underworld are like basically hinting that she's now the queen of the underworld, and everybody else's, you know, stuff that she likes, rooms are appointed in a way that she likes, her smell, everything, you know, people who know him, everybody's constantly like, yeah, he's acting super different, something's really different, he really seems like he's in love, and she's still like, I don't know what's happening between me and Hades. It's so tiresome, so tiresome. Just understand, girl, it's not that hard. There's randomly just like another ball, the Ascension Ball, which is like a underworld only ball where the souls, I guess, return after they've been recycled back to up to the mortal world. She kind of like helped, Persephone helps to organize it, and everybody's like loving it, and it's a great good time, and the underworld, everything is peachy and everything's going well and nothing bad is happening. He takes her to a fancy restaurant and they have an amazing dinner where she gives him a blowjob in the car on the way, naturally, and then he comes and decides to have like a normie night with her and her roommate where they bake cookies and watch like a horror movie with her and Jason with an eye, and it's just, oh. It's funny because I read in some of the reviews online people saying that this book was in like really just addicting and they just pushed through it, and I found this book so hard to come back to. After I would read a little bit of it, everything was so kind of on one level. I felt like no emotional up and down, that there was nothing that was like bringing me back to it really at all. Persephone threw off the blankets and pulled on her nightshirt. She's been naked the whole time. That's so awkward. Hades remained sitting in the bed. How long? Demeter asked. It's really none of your business, Mother, Persephone snapped. Her mother's eyes darkened. You forget your place, daughter. And you forget my age. I am not a child. Could have fooled me. You are my child, and you have betrayed my trust. Persephone knew what was about to happen. She could feel her mother's magic building in the air. Why has Hades said absolutely fucking nothing? No, Mother. Persephone looked frantically to Hades, and he looked back, tense but calm. It did nothing to ease her fear. You will no longer live this disgraceful mortal life. Oh, right, because her whole ability to do this is all predicated on her mom giving her the magic. Demeter knows, and she's like, once this bargain, she finds out about the bargain because she sees her hand. She's like, once this bargain is filled, you won't be able to cosplay as immortal anymore, and you definitely will never see Hades again. And Lexa has heard all of this, and so of course she's also has to reveal to Lexa, her best friend / stranger, that she's actually been a goddess this whole time, because she never was able to tell her because they were such good friends. Her mom has found out, but right away Hades just gives her his magic for her glamour, because her mom has snatched that magic right off her, and she is without glamour, but Hades just gives it to her, and so she's right back to having the glamour, like literally right away. So she goes to work at New Athens News. Woman shows up. It's Aphrodite. She knows because she went to Aphrodite's club. She's seen her. She didn't know what Aphrodite, I guess she's never seen the gods until now. She's that sheltered. She does not know what her own peers, her own extended family basically looks like. Aphrodite comes and she reveals what is possibly my least favorite. I don't know, that's a tough one to say at this point, but absolutely one of my least favorite elements of this story, which is that, well, I guess I'll just read you a little portion. Aphrodite smiled, but there was pity in her gaze. I fear Hades has placed you in the middle of our bet. Persephone felt a painful twisting maybe, in her stomach, and Persephone swallowed something thick in her throat. That is a rough sentence. Bet? She echoed. Yeah, truly, what the fuck, a bet? Are you serious? Aphrodite pursed her lips. I see he has not told you. You can drop the false concern, Aphrodite, and get to the point. The goddess's face changed, and she became more severe and more beautiful than before. When she'd seen Aphrodite at the gala, Persephone had sensed her loneliness and sadness, but now it was clear across her face. It shocked her that Aphrodite, the goddess of love, the goddess who had affairs with gods and mortals alike, was lonely. Oh, the dramatic irony! I challenged Hades to a game of cards. It was all for fun, but he lost. My wager was that he had to make someone fall in love with him within 6 months, she said. That happens literally, it seems, like the same night that she starts her bet with Hades. And interestingly enough, the terms, it's the exact same length of time for the terms of both of those bets. How fascinating is that? Persephone, heartbroken, sad, still in her active other bet with Hades, who, again, set the terms of the second bet, her bet with him, and made it so that the terms were the exact same length of time between her length and the bet that he had with Aphrodite. So she goes back to the underworld, because, of course, girl's got to keep trying to grow something. Otherwise, she's stuck there, just not even as a prisoner, though, just as like a, inhabitant. And she ends up kind of trudging up this mountain because she's looking for this well that's potentially going to give her like a way to do what she needs to do. And she finds a man chained in a cavern, and his name is Tantalus. And basically, again, shoehorning in lore, I'm sure. I don't really know the story. It's probably true. But essentially, he's like asking her for water because he's chained up, and she gives him some, but then he turns and he becomes really aggressive, and he like comes after her. Men can only exist in these books in one of 3 archetypes. There's the hero, the romantic lead, and he's alone. And he can be good, bad in equal measure, and everything will just work out because he's the hero, and we'll forgive it if it's bad, and we'll praise it if it's good. There can be a non-sexually threatening, non-bad male who is usually a servant, a hired like guard, or a romantic interest of another character, like Jason with an eye, who doesn't have any on-page time, but he's made an impact on me, obviously. Or there is every other type of straight male character who is horrible and treacherous and immediately like just waiting for the opportunity to yell really misogynistic expletives at our main character, or trying to, of course, sexually assault her. It's just, it's a very binary, black and white kind of way to look at the world, and I don't particularly love it. Once the story starts, our romantic leads cannot have any sexual tension with any other kinds of characters at all. That cannot exist. They can be desired by other characters. They can be desired by other characters who desire them so much that they act horribly and they do something bad. But they can't have any kind of like sexual chemistry with any other characters. No. Hades swoops in. She's getting attacked, possibly almost by Tantalus, barely held up by his chains. Hades swoops in, reveals, oh, Tantalus is a baddie. He slaps him back down. They're all good. They, teleport out back to somewhere in the palace, where they proceed, of course, to have the confrontation, because she's just realized that he has engaged in their whole romantic notion is from a bet. But because she's like freaked out and all shaken up by the attack, she like barely holds his feet to the fire. She says something about it being a bet for 1 second, and then it's just like not a problem. I know about Aphrodite Hades. His face changed at her words. She'd never seen him look so shocked or stricken. You've known him for less than 6 months. I'm no more than a game to you, he scowled. I have never considered you a game, Persephone. The contract. This has nothing to do with the contract, he all but snarled, releasing her. Persephone struggled to gain her footing in the water and shot back at him. This has everything to do with the contract. Gods, I was so stupid. I let myself think you were good, even with the possibility of being your prisoner. Prisoner? You would think yourself a prisoner here? Have I treated you so poorly? Exactly. Like the stakes of the initial bet were so nothing that it basically created a nothing situation, nothing burger. A kind jailer is still a jailer, Persephone snapped. Hades' face darkened. If you considered me your warden, why did you fuck me? That is something that people do a lot in those types of situations because of a power imbalance. Fuck you, she snarled and jumped. This one I loved because the imagery of this sentence is fucking mind-boggling. She snarled and jumped, twining her legs around his waist. I cannot for the life of me imagine that in a way that seems at all possible. Again, Persephone pushed Hades onto his back and impaled herself on his shaft, taking him deep. That is such unsexy language. And then they stop, but they're still upset. But because of her anger at Hades over being betrayed, possibly, or according to him, not, even though he set the terms of their bet to the exact same length of time he had to find somebody to fall in love with him from a different bet. What happens finally? Big, crazy, gnarled black roots erupt through the floor. She's finally got her powers, or the right powers, whatever it is. These roots erupt through the floor. They trap Hades. They crab claw his arms together. And Persephone has officially won the bet because she has created life in the underworld via these crazy gnarled black roots. There's also this blackmail scheme where Persephone was blackmailed. Puppy, do you want to come here? You want to come in? Hi, honey. There's not a toy. This is not a toy. There's also this blackmail scheme where Persephone she receives blackmail photos of her and Hades, fucking basically on a balcony down in the underworld. But it could be completely not there at all. Its only function is that it ties together our two baddest baddies. Thank you. Minth and Adonis, who were working together on the blackmail scheme. Minth took the pictures of them fucking because she's everywhere that Hades is at all times. And Adonis is the one who sent the blackmail. Thank God, as soon as this is all finished, I'm going to forget every single thing about this because it is just painfully not important. Minth freaks out and Adonis finds out that she's a goddess and kind of backs off because he's shocked, as we all would be. And then Minth is freaking out and she's like, "You stupid idiot. You were supposed to fall in love with him, not the other way around." And fucking Persephone has the goddamn gall, unmitigated gall, to be like, "He doesn't love me." Girl, why must we? Why must we do this? Why do we have to have every other character tell her 4 times at minimum each that he loves you for her to understand that? At the end of this little interaction, Minth ends up getting turned into a mint plant by Persephone, and I guess thus is the origin of mint. And I am less clear than ever what the hell Persephone's flower power is. She meets up with her mom, Demeter Dearest, who invites her back to giant greenhouse, and they have a tense conversation where Persephone tries to be reasonable, but her mom's like, "You're choosing Hades over me." And then it ends with her basically revealing to Persephone that it doesn't matter because she's warded the room, the greenhouse, and Persephone will be trapped there forever. She'll never be able to leave. She's a prisoner. But what do you know? Persephone is able to now use her powers, and her crazy giant black-rooted, gnarled tree sprouts up, and it completely destroys the glass greenhouse, and thus with it the ward, and she's able to walk away because she has now established herself. She's independent. She goes back to the underworld where she has a conversation with Hecate, where Hecate's like, "You definitely did win the bet because you not only created life with your gnarled roots, but you created life in Hades." Because apparently he was just not feeling it. And then she makes up with Hades. They both admit that they missed each other, and it's a happily ever after for everybody involved except for me. Oh, so happy to be in that. I did not like this book. Did not think it was fun. Didn't think it was even silly fun. To put it in perspective, and here's the thing. I know some people who are watching this are going to be like, it's a romance with fantasy trappings, but it's almost entirely a romance. It's meant to be romantic. It's basically a large portion of it erotica. It's just kind of erotic with some narrative around it. It's not that serious. It's not that deep. But I think we can do better even for, I don't want to say even. Romance is legitimate. Erotica is legitimate. These can be great stories that focus on these specific things. I don't think that this was a great story. I don't think it was very romantic at all. I didn't think it was very romantic at all. Even though Persephone shouldn't have been needed to be told so many times that there was romance there and that Hades was falling for her, truly as a reader, I didn't sense any real romance there at all. It was a very weird relationship that wasn't cute, antagonistic. It was just kind of like awkward, and both characters didn't behave like normal characters at all. And I didn't say normal people because I know they're gods and goddess, but not like normal characters. It wasn't great romance. The erotica was pretty not my favorite. The amount of times that flesh and impaled were used were just too much for me. I even like some spooky stuff, but I just didn't think it was sexy. And just overall, it totally failed in world building for me, totally failed in characterization, totally failed in stakes, totally failed basically for the most part for the romance. And I felt like it didn't add anything at all to the original mythology. It wasn't any like cool reinvention of it. It was just kind of a watering down. And I know that this continues. Perhaps it continues and the series gets much better. I hope that's the case for people who continue to read it, but I definitely will not be continuing to read this series. And it's funny, it took me a long time to realize that I had read some of a Scarlett St. Clair book before, which was Kingdom of Battle and Blood, I believe it's called. I just read a little bit of the beginning of it, and similar problems where I just don't think I don't love the dynamic she sets up, which is this, I think that the main characters that she creates are kind of uncomplicated and boring, and the ensuing dynamic is like too simplified and too straightforward for me. But a lot of people have liked this. You might like it. It's going to be, a book that I personally just could not possibly recommend to anybody, not even as a fun one. To put it in context, to use a much debated, highly controversial book that's very popular. It is romance with tons of erotica, lots of spice. I read Haunting Adeline. I also couldn't recommend that to a fair amount of people I know, or I wouldn't necessarily, but I would definitely recommend it to some people because I found it extremely compulsive as a read. I wanted to keep going. I was intrigued. It was fucking bonkers. But I could buy into the world a lot more than I could buy. This was just I felt so distanced from, so much distance. This was rough. I'm excited to deviate from books like this one. Even the craziness of When the Moon Hatched, I'm looking at that right now, I might do that. That's so much more preferable to this. This is just boring, and it was a drag. It was a slog for me. No disrespect, obviously, to the author whatsoever. She's continued to be successful. I wish her nothing but success. But for me, no. It was a mismatch. Absolutely. Okay, that's it. First one done. Like and subscribe, please. I've never said that before. Like and subscribe. There's buttons for that. And let me know if you guys have anything that you specifically would like to see me read in the future. I really focus on fantasy with some romance, with possibly, deviations into dark romance. If you have something like that, throw it in the comments. Let me know. And let me know what you thought of A Touch of Darkness. Is anybody with me that Mint was not so bad? Justice for Mint. I love mint tea though, so maybe it was a necessary, she had to take one for the team to give us something delicious. Let me chime in.